Your kids should not be the direct beneficiaries of your investment accounts, and let me tell you why. And the reason behind it may scare you because a lot of Americans don't really think about it or understand the process as much as they should. And I did it wrong for almost 7 years before I got married to my wife, and I just designated every asset to my daughter, which is still a minor when I was single. And we don't like to think about our afterlife, right? When you set up your retirement accounts, investment accounts, or checking or savings accounts, you probably just set it and forget it to your spouse or your kids as the secondary beneficiary and just forget about them. If you're a single parent, a lot of times I've noticed as a financial coach that people want to make sure that their kids are taken care of should anything unexpected happens to them. I get it, because I want the same thing for my child. And however, you might be doing more financial harm to your kids if you choose your kids as the direct beneficiaries. So step 9 of my FIRE checklist is to build generational wealth, and you can download this checklist and other financial spreadsheets for free by visiting firesuch.com/contact. But the reality is you've already started building generational wealth from step 1, and your wealth building journey began when you started saving cash for your emergency fund, when you paid off your debt, when you start contributing to your retirement accounts like 401k, Roth IRA, and HSA, and when you start saving for your early retirement, because all of those assets can be passed down to the next generation. Every decision you make now is well within your control. The only thing you can't control is how long you get to live on this planet. And I don't know what might happen to me today, tomorrow, next month, or next year. I don't think about any of that, but I am making sure that my wife and daughter are financially set if anything unexpected happens to me. The first one I want to talk about is your life insurance policy. I got a 20-year term life insurance policy several years ago, and the plan is to not renew it when the policy expires. I would never get the whole life insurance policy because it's straight up a ripoff based on the math I did. In 20 years, my FIRE number alone at $3.7 million will be plenty for my beneficiaries, so they won't need my life insurance policy to help supplement their income. Anyway, you would normally designate a primary beneficiary, and it's usually your spouse or someone inside your family circle. And you also have the contingent beneficiaries, and that's if something happens to both you and the primary beneficiary at the same time. If my wife and I both die together in some sort of accident, the idea is to make sure our daughter is taken care of with the money she receives from my life insurance policy, right? So most people just put their kids' names under contingent beneficiaries. Don't do it, and here's why. My life insurance policy or my life insurance company will not pay directly to my daughter because she's a minor under the age of 18. If there are no appointed guardians for the minor beneficiary, then the money will instead go to probate court and have the judge appoint a guardian to provide accountings and manage the funds. And you can probably imagine how expensive the legal process can be. And I would not want a stranger managing my daughter's money, and I can't imagine you will want the same. The other reason the insurance company won't pay directly to minors is that they don't want to get sued by the beneficiaries when they become adults for mismanaging their money. The insurance company doesn't want to be legally liable for the way your minors spend their money. And it's not just your life insurance policy. You need to take a look at your brokerage account, retirement account, pension, checking account, and savings accounts. If you have a sizable net worth, like in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, or if you're a single parent to children under the age of 18, you should really consider establishing what's called a revocable living trust with an estate attorney. And this is not any form of legal advice. This is just something I have done, and personally to make sure my wealth is protected in case something unexpected happens to me. And when I was on active duty in the military, I had to create a will right before I went on my first deployment to Iraq back in 2006. I updated my will every year to make sure my family knew what they had to do with my assets if I got killed overseas. It's important to have a will, but what I didn't realize is that my final will and testament are submitted to a probate court and they become public information. Once my will becomes public information, then the probate court will go through a retitling process to distribute my assets to my beneficiaries or heirs. The average probate process can take anywhere between a year or even several years if any of my assets are contested. So if two of my family members fight over something I left behind, they're gonna have to spend more money to fight over it in court. The short answer to just having a will is that the process can be time-consuming, expensive, and frustrating for your beneficiaries. Having a revocable living trust can prevent my estate from having to be submitted to the probate process because it is a separate legal entity created by me when I was alive. Past tense, it's kind of weird. Again, I'm not an attorney, so I'm just gonna tell you what I know as a non-attorney Sai. Here's Sai, right? And here's the trustee. I'm gonna draw this for you, which is the person who legally handles the trust business. Sai's married, so naturally his wife would be the other trustee of the trust. You can actually name your trust to whatever you want. Let's say I name my trust the Game of Thrones family trust. So inside this trust, I can move my vehicle titles, house, brokerage accounts, checking accounts, and so many other assets. So this family trust becomes the owner of these assets, but I still own these assets because I'm the trustee of this trust. I hope that makes sense. When I establish the trust, I get to name a successor trustee, which is the person I designate to make all the decisions for the Game of Thrones family trust if I become mentally or physically incapacitated, or if I just simply die. If you're married, it's usually your spouse. So in this case, it would be my spouse. You should also designate an alternate successor trustee if something happens to both you, your spouse at the same time, and make sure it's someone who is financially responsible. Even if you're not married, you should have at least one successor trustee and an alternate successor trustee. The next thing I did was designate lifetime beneficiaries, and I would designate myself and my wife to be the trust's sole lifetime beneficiaries. For the death beneficiaries, and that's if I die, this is where I'll leave detailed instructions on how my wealth will be distributed. Since my daughter is 10 years old, then I left instructions to make sure the trust funds her tuition and living expenses until a certain age. If I make my trust the beneficiary for my life insurance policy, then the policy will pay out to a say a brokerage or a savings account under the Game of Thrones trust. I can also make additional requirements for my daughter before she receives any funds, and I can say something like she has to complete certain financial courses to become financially literate. I want to make sure my daughter is ready to manage a large sum of money instead of just blowing it all away. These are the things that you want to think about when you're creating a trust with an estate attorney, and you probably don't want to just hand $1 million to your kids and just say good luck, right? So today I encourage you to log into every bank account, every brokerage account, and every retirement account you own and find out who your primary and contingent beneficiaries are. And my primary beneficiary is my wife, and my contingent beneficiary is my revocable living trust. Even if you're not married, make sure you have a contingent beneficiary just in case your primary beneficiary becomes mentally or physically incapable of managing your assets. And as far as how much it costs will depend on the state. And if you create one with an attorney, it could cost thousands of dollars. If you ask me if it's worth it, it really depends on your net worth. And I personally think it was worth it when my net worth reached $500,000. I also think it's necessary if you have a sizable net worth and you're a single parent. I also encourage you to have a conversation with your spouse, family members, and anyone else who may be in your will or trust so they understand what they need to do if you or if both you and your spouse pass away at the same time. And I actually set a reminder on my calendar to review all of my beneficiaries at least once a year. And if you need help with your personal finances, like budget, savings, and investments to achieve your financial independence, you can schedule a free one-on-one 20-minute financial coaching session by visiting firesidechat.com/coaching. And if you want to know more about how to create your generational wealth, be sure to check out these two videos. So with that said, I appreciate you watching my video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video. Have a good one.